What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. It's your boy Leo coming to you guys with another video. So today we're doing WrestleMania 42 match card predictions. Now, at the time of recording this video, WrestleMania is only 7-8 months, so a lot of things can change between now and then, from storylines maybe ended at that point, injuries. Hopefully that's not the case, because I like to see a lot of these men and women healthy. A lot of other things that might be end up taking place, maybe the Rock effect. If you guys if you know, other things may end up being a factor as well. So even things may end up being pivoted just because of certain storylines or certain people not being available for that show. But it all comes down to what The Rock may say, because The Rock ends up having sometimes the final say so in a lot of these situations. Hopefully that's not the case, but we never know. But we're gonna go through these matches that I do have. Now I want to make a disclaimer. Now night 2, I have it set as night 1 and night 2, right? But on night 2, there are more matches than it will be on night 1. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. Now, y'all let me know what are your thoughts and opinions on the matches that I do have in the comment section down below. But before we get into the video, make sure you guys super kick that like button and subscribe to the channel. But we're going to get into it with the first match on night 1, kicking off with the World Heavyweight Championship match. I have the champion CM Punk versus the Royal Rumble winner Sami Zayn. Now, you're probably wondering, how is this going to happen? Well, let's backtrack a little bit. We did see a situation early in this year going into the Royal Rumble where we had a situation where we had an interaction where we had CM Punk and Sami Zayn. They were both getting ready and prepping for the Royal Rumble match. This was on a Monday Night Raw, if I'm not mistaken. And CM Punk pretty much had a war of words with Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn threw a little jab at none other than CM Punk. And he told CM Punk, I've done something that you never done at that point in time. And that's main event of WrestleMania, because we all know Sami Zayn main event at night 1 of WrestleMania 39 for the tag titles, with him and Sami Zayn defeating the Usos. But this was before we end up seeing none other than CM Punk have that triple threat with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins on night 1 of WrestleMania 41 this year. So a lot of things may have changed since then. We also got to understand at the time of recording this video, Seth Rollins is the World Heavyweight Champion, but I do see a situation at some point where Seth Rollins loses that championship, maybe because of Roman Reigns, and that might set off in their own feud, and then pretty much Roman Reigns does a favor for none other than CM Punk by allowing him to win that World Heavyweight Championship. Now, then you have CM Punk pretty much can throw a little jab back at Sami, because Sami has never won a world championship. We can have a situation on Monday Night Raw where CM Punk says, you told me last year there's something that I never done, and that's main event of WrestleMania. But here, a year later, I'm doing something that you've never done, and that's be a world champion. Now we can set things up for WrestleMania, and we all know this can be a potential good match because of the in-ring aspect of things. We saw the match that CM Punk put on with Gunther, which was a really great match, by the way. Sami Zayn, we know he's no stranger to putting on great matches as well. The match that he put on with Gunther at WrestleMania 40 for the IC title was really good. So these two are no strangers to having great matches. Now, this is the first time I think these two are competing against each other. I think we may have seen it on Raw. Y'all can comment down below, let me know if I'm wrong. But I would love to see this match end up happening and seeing these two go at it for sure. And I think you also got to understand, WrestleMania 41 this year, we had the World Heavyweight Championship open night 1. So I feel like, why not have these two open night 1 next year at WrestleMania 42? Now, the next match that we're going to be talking about is a triple threat for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. I have champion Becky Lynch defending against Io Sky versus Stephanie Valkyrie. Now, honestly, I feel like this match can be really, really good. Now, we know Becky is doing some amazing work with the Intercontinental Championship. She had a brilliant performances in her performances that she had with none other than Lyra Valkyria. So I would love to see what she's able to do outside of that. Now we're starting to see a little bit more now. Currently, at the time of recording this video, she is going to be going into a feud with Nikki Bella, which I do expect her to win. I feel like she's going to be a true workhorse with this championship and what she's able to do in her run. And I feel like having her go up against some big names like that, Io, I mean, she's no longer women's world champion, but what's the next best thing? You could put her in there with Io can going after Becky. You could do that as a one-on-one. But I also think Stephanie McClure, you can't ignore her either. And I think this would be a great way to kickstart her career as well. We're seeing Julia on SmackDown trying to do something amazing with the U.S. title. Now, hopefully, we do get to something with her. But on the equivalent side, having pretty much building up Stephanie McClure being the workhorse of the women's division over in Raw, I think that would be a great spot for her, continuing to build up her legacy, building up her reputation as being a wrestler, and not only that, but as a champion, and putting her in there with two of your best workers. I think is a great way to showcase what she can really do and what her ceiling can be as a potential wrestler as well. So I do think that is a match that I do think they could potentially pull the trigger on going into WrestleMania next year. The next match that we have is a tag team match. It's for the WWE Tag Team Championships. I have the Usos going up against the Lucha Brothers. Now, a lot of different pieces may need to happen for this match to happen because we know Jimmy Uso is over on SmackDown, Jay Uso's over on Raw. We got Penta over on Raw, and we have Rey Fenix over on SmackDown, pretty much in a tag team with none other than Andrade. Now, a lot of things could potentially happen between now and then, so we don't know where some of these storylines can potentially lead to, but I think this will be a great way to have two of your best tag teams in history finally have the dream match that I think a lot of fans may want to see, and that's the Usos going up against the Lucha Brothers, and I think these two can actually kill it. Now, people might say, well, they're going to have to be on SmackDown. You also got to understand, with the draft coming up, we don't know when the draft is going to be, but the tag titles can always end up switching over to another brand, so people got to understand that as a potential outcome as well. But I do think the Usos and the Lucha Brothers in a tag match for the tag titles, I think would probably be potentially match of the year, potentially candidate, if you want to be honest and stuff like that. So I gotta go the Usos and the Lucha Brothers competing for the WWE Tag Team Championships. The next match is former Judgment Day compadres, now bitter enemies, bitter rivals, if you may want to call it that. We got Dominic Mysterio versus Finn Balor in a no-holds-barred street fight. Now, I think this right here makes all the sense in the world. I do expect at some point we're going to see Finn Balor potentially cost Dominic the IC title, or Dominic pretty much becomes too successful and it gets under the skin of Finn Balor and he pretty much screws him out of the championship, and therefore we can kickstart this feud, because we've been telling this probably since the start of this year, if you want to be honest, of these two potentially butting heads at some point. And it all started pretty much when Dominic wanted to bring in a new member. Finn wasn't really too keen of that. And then at some point, Finn Balor came around to the idea, but it wasn't Dominic Mysterio who actually was able to bring in the person to be part of the Judgment Day. It was Finn Balor who actually brought in Roxanne Perez to the Judgment Day. And people really weren't on the side of that. Finn Balor was the only one that was really pro Roxanne and all of this. And then we ended up getting to where we are now, where it seems like everybody's starting to gel well. But I do expect at some point Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio are going to butt heads once again, and that's going to kickstart this feud, potentially going into WrestleMania 42. I wouldn't even be surprised if they have Dominic Mysterio hold the title up until that point, and it's for the Intercontinental Championship. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think you can stretch this feud out that long, especially depending on how they decide to go about it and how they end up executing everything. But I do expect at some point down the line, Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor to finally go face to face. Now, the next match we're going to be having is Alexa Bliss versus Charlotte Flair. Now, we know this is definitely going to be happening at some point in time. They are currently your women's tag team champions, but as they always say, good things must come to an end, and I do expect at some point in the coming months these two to lose their tag titles and potentially end up feuding. Now, a lot of people on paper would think Charlotte's going to be the one to turn on Alexa Bliss. We know Charlotte's history as being a heel, wanting to be in the spotlight for herself and wanting to be the focal point. But I do think with this new leaf and this new chapter that she's on as a babyface, and I'm starting to be more and more invested into what they're doing with her as a character and even in the ring. I think but down the line, you have Alexa Bliss be the one to turn on Charlotte as a surprise that nobody would see coming, and we can have these two in a singles match going into WrestleMania next year. Kind of similar to what they did with Naomi and Jade Cargill this year, but do it with Alexa Bliss and Charlotte going into WrestleMania 42. The next match that we're going to be talking about is a ladder match. Now, we have a lot of names in this match, and this for the Intercontinental Championship. We have Karrion Kross versus AJ Styles versus Rusev versus Aleister Black versus LA Knight versus Ilya Dragunov versus Damian Priest versus Carmelo Hayes versus Solo Sikoa versus Andrade. A 10-man ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. I know it's a lot of bites. A lot of stuff is going to be flying with all these guys involved. Pretty much people are going to be glued to their seats potentially, hopefully, of this match happening, because there's a lot of stuff that's going to be involved in this match, and as far as who's going to end up winning and all that good stuff. But I think this is a great way to kind of get more people on the card and more people to be featured. I know if you look at the Unreal, if you guys watch that, there was a lot more things that were going to be in place as far as what the Intercontinental Championship or U.S. title could have been, as far as getting more people involved and more people to be spotlighted at WrestleMania. Unfortunately, that was not the case, but I think this would be a great way to get more people on the card and actually be able to showcase their talent. So that's kind of what my idea as far as having all these people in there. And I think you have some great names to be in this match. You have Karrion Kross, who I hope resigns. AJ Styles, who's been doing some great work. You got Aleister Black, who's in a feud with Damian Priest at the time of recording this video. LA Knight, who didn't get to make SummerSlam, but this would be a great way to finally feature him in a big spot going after another title. Ilya Dragunov, you can't. I mean, this would be a great way for him to come back and be spotlighted as well. You got Damian Priest, who's become a world champion, who's became U.S. champion and tag team champion. This is the one title that he has never held in his career, and this will be able to complete his Grand Slam as well. And you got Carmelo, who's pretty much on the path of trying to find something for him to do. This would be a great way to slot him in. And Solo Sikoa, he's formerly known as a U.S. champion. He's a current U.S. champion. Why not put him in the IC title at some point? I think that'd be a great way to have him be doing something of substance at WrestleMania. So definitely that's something I would love to see potentially happen. And we're already on our night one main event. This match is going to close night one, and it is for the Women's World Championship. I have Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. This match right here is going to cook. Two of your biggest stars in your women's division finally going at it. It's a dream match that I think a lot of people wanted, myself included. I think a lot of us can agree we wanted to see that match potentially happen this year, and it was potentially in the books to happen, but at the last minute they pivoted and they ended up having Io Sky be added in and made it a triple threat, and then we ended up seeing where everything played out after that. But I do think two of your biggest stars, from coming up from NXT, pretty much being in two different paths as far as their career goes, finally coming together to compete against each other for the Women's Championship. Honestly, you don't even necessarily need to have the World Championship be involved. You can have the whole story of this, pretty much who's the best person to come up from NXT and whatnot, who's the most dominant women in the women's division. This is the best way to do that. So I think you gotta have those two finally go at it and whatnot. So I do think Rhea and Bianca would be a great night one main event potentially. And now we're on to night two. We have Jade Cargill versus Nia Jax versus Chelsea Green versus Julia versus Tiffany Stratton versus Raquel Rodriguez in a ladder match for the Women's United States Championship. Pretty much some of your biggest stars in the women's division, from Jade Cargill to Nia Jax to Chelsea, and then Tiffany, who's been elevating her career as being part of all this and being in the being a women's champion, pretty much defeating Jade and defeating none other than Charlotte at WrestleMania. Pretty much now finally going after another a goal in her career. So I think that'd be a great way for her. Raquel finally being on her own and showing what she can really do on her own as a singles champion. I think that'd be a crazy and a great idea to see end up playing out in all honesty. So that's probably where my head's at. It's kind of similar to what I said with the Intercontinental Championship, getting more people involved and more people something to do on WrestleMania and stuff like that. So that's kind of my idea overall on that, but it's a ladder match for the U.S. Championship. The next match is a celebrity match. I know people don't like celebrity matches, but this is a celebrity match. It is Logan Paul versus Bad Bunny. Pretty much two of your biggest stars to pretty much become literally coming from celebrity to WWE. Two of your biggest right there and in there. And I think you can have the story pretty much who is the best celebrity. Is it Logan Paul? Is it Bad Bunny? And I think the in-ring aspect of this can actually really cook as well. This all pretty much is predicated on what the schedule of Bad Bunny is going to be at that time. But if he's free, this will be a great option for him. This is probably one of the best things available for him, is going face to face with Logan Paul, who's pretty much been doing some stellar work inside the ring. In all honesty, I know people may have their gripes about what he does outside of the ring and all his sponsors and all the stuff is from a business standpoint. I get it. But when it comes to him being in that ring, he's one of the very best in that ring, in my personal opinion. So this will be a great way for him to be in something high profile without him not necessarily going after the title and whatnot. So this is kind of where my idea is and stuff like that. So definitely that's something where I have my headset as far as what we could see come WrestleMania. The next match is a fatal 5-way for the World Tag Team Championships. We have the New Day defending against Fraxium versus Street Profits versus the Hardy Boys versus Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. Now, the New Day, they're kind of doing this whole thing right now where they're kind of they're pretty much mourning the death of the tag team division. They might bounce back and potentially go after the tag titles at some point. We do know if we do have a draft, we can potentially move some of these tag teams over to kind of help fresh up the tag team division over on Raw because they desperately need it. You can put the Street Profits over there. You could put Fraxium over there. Two of your most athletic tag teams. You put them in there with the New Day. I feel like at the time of recording the video, at some point, I do think the Hardy Boys will finish up in TNA and jump over to WWE and having them have one last potential title reign in WWE before they call it a career would be a great moment for them to have as well. And I feel like when you have these matches, you want to have somebody that's pretty much the dominant force in all of this, and I think that is none other than Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker walking in to compete for the tag titles and stuff like that. So that's kind of where my idea and my creativity comes in there as far as having all these teams come in, and I think moving some of these people over from SmackDown to Raw to help booster up that tag team division will be very beneficial to them. So that's kind of the match that I have. The next match is a submission match. We have Brock Lesnar versus Gunther, a dream match that people wanted and we potentially could realistically be getting. Now we know Brock Lesnar made his long-awaited return at SummerSlam, and I think a lot of people have been wondering what could he be doing. I feel like he's kind of similar to John Cena, where he might be on his retirement tour, because we know SummerSlam next year will be in Minnesota, and I think that'd be a great way to kind of have his final send-off be and everything like that, and finish up his career as a WWE wrestler and stuff like that. And I think one of the matches that you should do on his way out is doing Brock Lesnar versus Gunther. I think that's a match that people wanted since WrestleMania 39, when Gunther was pretty much Intercontinental Champion and holding that championship for the pretty much over 600 days at that point. I think people really want to see that match happen, and now we potentially could be on the cusp of seeing that happen and become a reality. And I think having this be a submission match would be a great way to kind of bring that stipulation back, because we don't see it at all that often. You could pretty much have the Kimura lock versus the sleeper. I think that pretty much this match sells on its own just because of the dream match aspect alone. So I think that is something that I would love to see potentially happen finally, for sure. The next match is a fatal 5-way for the women's tag team titles. We have Naomi and Bayley versus the Kabuki Warriors versus Secret Harvest versus B-Fab and Michin versus the Bella Twins versus Natalya and Maxine Dupree. Now, this pretty much, I feel like Kabuki Warriors are going to probably be tag team champions at some point. Secret Harvest gives them something to do because they've been getting more and more TV time. Gives B-Fab and Michin something to do, and pretty much gives the Bella Twins an opportunity to compete for the tag titles, something that they've never been able to do. Gives Natalya and Maxine Dupree something to do as well, and gives Naomi and Bayley something to do, because I do think at some point Bayley is going to turn heel, and maybe she does align herself maybe with the Naomi, and those two can pretty much run shot over the tag division or whatever show that they might be a part of. I think that'd be an interesting dynamic to see happen, those two coming together to compete for the tag titles. I think that is something I would love to see potentially happen on screen. But this is kind of, like I said, the other match that I may have said earlier in the show, where it gives them a lot of these people, men and women, something to do, and give them some substance to do as well. So that's kind of where my idea comes in there. And the next match is a Las Vegas street fight for the United States Championship. I have Drew McIntyre versus Jacob Fatu. We've seen this match be teased a couple of times, and I don't think they're going to just tease it and they're not going to pay it off and do it at some point, whether if it may be a couple months, maybe at WrestleMania, maybe at the Royal Rumble. At some point, they're going to pay it off, and I think this match of this caliber deserves to be on the biggest stage possible, by that being WrestleMania. And letting these two go out there and have weapons at their disposal, I think makes it all the more intriguing to see play out as well. So I think these two will go out there and actually give you a banger of a match, and I can't wait if this does end up happening, because I would love to see these two go at it. And then similar to what I said earlier about Damian Priest, him competing for the one title that's eluded him. This is the one title that has eluded Drew McIntyre in his career at some point, and everything like that. And I think at some point, pretty much Solo is going to lose the title back to Jacob, and then we could set this up going into WrestleMania. So this is kind of one of those matches that I think needs to happen, and I want to see happen. So there you go for the Las Vegas Street Fight for the U.S. Championship. Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre. The next match, it is for the WWE Women's Championship. I have Roxanne Perez going in defending against the Royal Rumble winner, Liv Morgan. Pretty much Sami Zayn is going to be winning the men, and I hopefully expect Liv Morgan to come in and win the women's Royal Rumble to compete against Roxanne at Mania. This story pretty much writes itself. We've seen Liv Morgan go down with the injury and everything like that. Now Roxanne is starting to try to take over the Judgment Day and pretty much buying her way into the Judgment Day, trying to befriend everybody in the Judgment Day, trying to take away everything away from Liv Morgan, similar to what Liv did to Rhea Ripley. But now the tables have turned, and now it's Liv Morgan in the Rhea Ripley spot here. Now Roxanne has become tag team champion. She lost the tag titles. Now she might be going on to compete for the women's championship. Who's to say that at some point by the end of the year, or maybe by Royal Rumble, if we don't see Liv Morgan by that point, because I think at the time of recording this video, her injury says she might not be back for like 5-6 months. So that puts her around December or January. Now I don't think they'll bring her in December or anything like that. So maybe you'll bring her in for the Rumble, which I think is the best way to do it. And I think this is a great way to do it, because I think there's a lot of stuff that you can put in this match as far as potentially it happening, right? Liv Morgan has never competed for a women's championship at WrestleMania. She's never won a singles match at WrestleMania. She's never been in a singles match at WrestleMania. So there's a lot of things going against this match as well. And Roxanne, this is be a great coming out party for her as a singles competitor, because she's kind of only been doing tag team stuff since she came in for the most part, besides her doing the Royal Rumble, having the longest time spinning that match this year, going into Elimination Chamber, competing in the women's Money in the Bank. Outside of that, she hasn't really done that much. But this will be a great way to kind of have her do something. And I think this feud kind of should have the women's championship be involved. I think the story that they're trying to tell would be very, very good. And I think the in-ring aspect between these two, we know Roxanne Perez, if you watch her stuff in NXT, she's done some stellar work as not only as a champion, but as a wrestler as well. And Liv Morgan, before her injury, she was putting on some very, very, very entertaining matches, whether if it was in a singles capacity or a tag team capacity. You look at her tag team stuff, her and Raquel going up against Bianca and Naomi, banger match. The match that they had against the Kabuki Warriors, banger match. Or Io Sky in Dakota, banger match. I think those matches were bangers. Even as a singles competitor, the match that she had against Io Sky going into Saturday Night Main Event last year was really, really good. The match she had with Rhea Ripley on the Raw on Netflix, really good. So she's definitely elevated herself in a capacity to where she is seen as a top star. And this also kind of is predicated on a lot of things that I've also been saying, if you've been watching some of my live streams as well, that Saudi has their favorites of who they want to win, right? The Royal Rumble is going to be in Saudi, and I feel, as for me personally, Liv Morgan is your biggest star when it comes to Saudi as far as like overall popularity. Now there's other people that may have the same popularity. I feel like Rhea Ripley is a 1A, then Liv is like a 1B. Those are interchangeable, if you ask me. Both of those are like your two biggest stars, and I don't think you would put the Royal Rumble victory back on none other than Rhea Ripley. You could, but I think this would be a great way to finally give Liv Morgan that opportunity to compete for the championship at WrestleMania. So definitely think this is a storyline that I would love to see play out come WrestleMania for the WWE Women's Championship. The next match is the co-main event. It is a Hell in a Cell match. Two former brothers in arms finally going at it. We have Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins inside Hell in a Cell. Now, going back to what I said earlier when I talked about the CM Punk stuff, I do think with Seth Rollins being the world champion, I think Roman Reigns would probably be the de facto X factor, the being the reason why Seth Rollins loses that championship, and this can pretty much set up their feud going into WrestleMania. They feel like they need to put an end to this once and for all. They might go back and forth on the mic and in the ring, and it gets to a point where people can't control them. Now you got to have other people get involved to potentially try to break this up and try to put an end to this. And they say this is going to be a Hell in a Cell match. Finally put an end to it, and I think this match will be a instant classic match and probably be match of the year candidate. Finally, I think this finally is a match you can finally put on the card. This is a match that I think a lot of fans, myself included, want to see happen on a WrestleMania. I thought it was a potential possibility they would have done it this year, but that was not the case. But next year, I think this will be a great way to finally capitalize on that and finally give us the conclusive ending to this historic feud. So definitely going to have Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins on my card. The next match that we're going to be talking about is the main event of night 2. We have Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes for the WWE Undisputed Championship. Now, I do have Cody Rhodes going in as champion, and I have Randy Orton potentially win the Elimination Chamber or something along the lines of that to potentially get the opportunity to compete. And I do think Cody Rhodes will go in as a heel competing against a babyface Randy Orton. I think a lot of people would expect this to be Randy Orton as the heel, Cody Rhodes as the face. But I think having something you wouldn't see, quote unquote, coming and having a swerve happen, I think this would be a great way to do that. Having Cody Rhodes go in as the heel and Randy Orton being the babyface, because I feel like Randy Orton's in the same situation as John Cena, where he's at the career where people really don't want to boo him. People want to cheer Randy Orton just the same way as they did with John Cena. Nobody really wanted to boo John Cena just because it's his retirement tour. Nobody wanted to do that. So I think we're in a situation, the same thing with Randy Orton, where people don't want to boo him. So I think the best way to do this is either you have Cody turn heel, or you have a situation where Cody, it becomes a little bit more edgy, where he's a little bit more edgier, like how he was with Kevin Owens. You can have that aspect of his character. Do what you did with him and John Cena going into SummerSlam. Have him be a little bit more edgier going into that feud just because of the history that is involved, going back to their legacy days and everything like that. Finally paying off at WrestleMania in the Night 2 main event. But those are my WrestleMania 42 predictions. Comment down below. What are your WrestleMania 42 predictions in the comment section down below? Do you guys agree with a lot of the matches that I do come up with? Do you agree? Do you not agree? Let me know in the comment section down below as well. On the road to 2,000. Ultimate goal is 10,000. That's the ultimate goal we're trying to reach. So if you guys haven't had the opportunity, subscribe to the channel. If you guys are new, super kick that like button, super punch the notification bell. Send the time post a new video, whether it's a reaction video, rant video, live stream, any type of video. You can be a loop of things in our do drop video and spirit the subscribe button. Takes 3 seconds out of your day. Do those 3 things for me. Hustle regression my channel as well. But with that being said, hope editors are a great day. Great week. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next video.